Good morning from the Fish God. I got something pretty fun today, something a little different. We've been having some incredible success with a gurgler. So if you've never played with a gurgler, this is really a fun fly. The fly itself, gurglers are known for the sound that they make and the bubbles that they leave. They're an attractor fly. It's really a lot of fun to fish. The strikes are exciting. I was using this as an indicator, and what I've got is a size 14 Mustad 37-160 hook in the vise. You could use anything with a large gap and a short shank. This is one of those flies that you go, yeah, I don't know that any of it makes a lot of difference if you've got the basic profile. I like the way this keels, the way it works. What I'm doing is I'm putting on a little thread base down, and I'm going around the bend a little bit. This is something I came up, like I said, I'm using this as an indicator fly, and I was actually fishing one of my micro minnows down below, and I was catching them on both flies, which is really a lot of fun. The strikes are impressive. But what I'm doing is I'm going down around the base of this, the curve of the hook, and lay down a little thread base. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use some Chartreuse ripple ice fiber. And I'm using this as the tail. I was normally with a gurgler, you use a marabou tail, and I was getting a lot of just, swipes at, but not taking. So I thought, let me put a little bit more flash in here. So what I did is I switched out the marabou for ripple ice fiber, and suddenly it was hookups pretty much every cast. I've got a group, and a little bit goes a long way. I'm going to double this over. So what I've got is some ripple ice fiber here. I'm going to take the end, tie it down, and then wrap back over it. So all I'm going to do is do a little pinch wrap here, get it lashed on. It doesn't have to be pretty, doesn't have to be clean. Just kind of get it as best as you can attached. Wrap forward a few wraps, and then once you've got it forward, you just take these fibers here, kind of push them back, mash them around the sides, and lash it back down around the bend. When you lash down around the bend, it keeps it from fouling, which this stuff doesn't foul very often, not nearly as often as marabou does. It doesn't retain water, which is good, because we don't want it to retain any water. We want it to cast real nice. And this is such a small fly that it's easy to cast as it is. What I'm doing is what I just trimmed off, I'm just going to use those last little bits of fiber and just tie them in as well, just to add a little bit more to it. And so now I've got the tail attached, which, that's the business end of this. That's the part that really attracts the fish. I'm just kind of lashing down what I've got left. I'm going to go ahead and dub a little Chartreuse ice dub. And this is It's wild, it's green, it's an indicator. And as an indicator goes, this is pretty amazing. I put a little pinch of ice dub on here. Doesn't have to be dubbed very big, just enough to hold some glue and cover the thread wraps. So I'm going to just basically get that tied in, stretch it out a little bit, and give it a little base. And again, it's just to cover the thread wraps and give it a little something for the glue and the foam to stick to. Because I'm going to use a little super glue and a little bit of 2mm foam. I'm going to use a little 2mm green foam. And if you notice, I'm going to leave plenty of room at the eye here, and that's on purpose. So I've got the tail tied in. I've got a little ice dub wrapped over. I've got a strip of 2mm foam, and it's about a little short of the hook gap with this big hook. I've trimmed the end off, as you can see, so I have a good tie down. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of super glue on top. And this will keep that foam from spinning around. When you get a lot of fish hitting, it tends to want to move on you. And where we're just basically tying it down in one spot along the body, it'll keep it from rotating. I'm going to go ahead and grab that end there, and what I'm doing right now is kind of pinching the foam around the body. I'm going to come back a little bit, and I'm trapping little air bubbles of foam in there. Okay. And I'm going to go all the way back into the bend just a little bit. Okay. And then I'm going to come back over and kind of cross back over. And that's lashed in. So now to keep the top from rotating, I'm going to put a little bit more super glue. Okay, so just a little bit of brush, and I'm going to put a little bit beyond the end because I'm going to throw a little bend in there. So I'm going to kind of fold this and bend it, lay it right on top. Okay, so you see how I've got a little bit extra at the back end, and then I'm going to tie it down right here. Again, I'm kind of squeezing this around. I'm letting it set into that glue a little bit as I do this. See how it's laying flat? That's good. That's where we want it. Okay. And what I normally try and do, if you notice I've got it all tied in one spot, I'm going to kind of move down just a fraction of an inch there and go ahead and put another few wraps right there. And then in between. That just gives it a little bit more space, less likely to cut your foam and give you any reason to say, man, I didn't tie that well. Okay. So I'm going to do one other little thing. I'm going to put a little bit of a orange and yellow. I've got kind of a piece of scrap here that I've been using, and what I've done is I've trimmed the edge of this scrap. Let me trim it a little better, since I obviously didn't do a very good job of that. There we go. So I've got a little trim here, and I've got it at an angle. And what I'm going to do is add a little bit of glue. Take that light, that's kind of bright. There we go. I'm going to take a little bit of glue, And I'm going to put it on top here. One, that'll secure the thread wraps. And two, this is going to help with my position of this foam. What I'm going to do is take that angle that I cut and lay it on top right here and tie that in. So I'm going to do a couple of tight, one loose, two loose. Now I'm going to tighten it a little bit, okay? And do another one or two. Okay. And then I'm going to lift this up and let that glue kind of get a hold of that. While I'm doing that, I'm going to go ahead and do my thread wraps right here between the foam and the eye. And you see how much room I've left? That's so you can get to the eye so you can tie it on. Okay. And then I'm going to whip finish this. This is such a fun fly to fish. I was fishing it yesterday on my little test lake. And if I put this in the rings of a fish rise, they would immediately crush it. And if they didn't hit this, they hit my little micro minnow down below it. And I was popping it like you would a popper for bluegill or crappie, and I was popping it, and it would gurgle under and then pop back up. And then you'd get a rise right behind it. And you'd get 5 or 6 swirls at it, strikes at it on every cast. And then, but one would end up taking it. It was really, it was a hoot. So I've got that tied in, and if you look at the bottom side, it's tied in pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and trim this, leave a lip on here. So what I'm going to do is basically, I'm going to go ahead and move that a little bit so I can trim it. Okay. And I'm leaving a lip on there. So that lip is going to gurgle in the water. And then I'm going to go ahead and trim this too while I'm at it. There we go. And then, and I'm going to knock off the edges here on the corners. And every time you pop this, it'll dive underwater and leave bubbles. And then it'll pop back up. And when it pops back up, it becomes your indicator again. But a lot of times they'll hit it when it's coming back up to the surface. If you like this, you're going to find yourself really liking this. It's one of those things that doesn't always work. Sometimes it scares fish worse than it attracts them. But the fun part about this is that as you're fishing it, you're going to find yourself just laughing. This is probably, it could be called a giggler fly as opposed to a gurgler, because you're giggling all the time. I'm putting a little bit of UV resin there on the head just to secure my thread wraps. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit right down the body. That also gives it a little bit of weight, so it positions itself well in the water. Go ahead and hit it with a UV light now, and this thing is pretty close to indestructible. And that, my friends, is the Ripple Ice Gurgler. It's really been fun. Probably one of the most enjoyable flies to fish with that I've had in a long time. Like I said, I use it as an indicator. If you're fishing, fact is, if you're fishing a nymph on lakes, ponds, down below, you can tie to the bend of this hook, have your nymph hanging, 30 inches below this, and the waves will make it where you can see this as an indicator, and the waves will make your nymph kind of jig back and forth, and give your nymph a lot of action, and they'll take the nymph. But what's fun is how many hits I've been having on this indicator. So it's nice to have an indicator with a hook in it. If you like the video, please hit like. If you'd like to, subscribe. I'm going to try and keep putting out videos as they come up. Hopefully I'll put some more fun foam things in here, because I do have a couple of foam flies that I just use all summer long. One of them is just outstanding, that I refuse to go anywhere without those in my box. But this one is one that right now I'm just having too much fun with. Make sure and subscribe. Leave comments. Love to hear them. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. I hope this is something that you'll use. Again, this Gurgler, I'm going to zoom out just so you show. It's really not that big a fly. If you look, that's my thumb, and that's right on the fly. So, I mean, this is like your thumbnail. It's not a big Gurgler, but it's just enough to where you can see it way out on a lake, and the fish will definitely see it. Again, thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks.